You finally did it. Your baby is asleep, in your arms, calm, breathing slowly, completely relaxed, and all it took was a few minutes of movement, walking around the house, rocking at just the right rhythm, maybe even pacing the same path over and over again. And then, you stop. Just for a second, and almost instantly, the body tenses, the face shifts, the eyes open, and everything starts again. The crying, the restlessness, the same cycle you thought had just ended. And if you've ever been in that moment, you've probably asked yourself, quietly, why does this keep happening? Am I doing something wrong? Did I cause this? Is my baby dependent on this now? Because it doesn't feel random. It feels specific, consistent, almost automatic, like something breaks the exact moment you stop moving. But here's what almost no one tells you. Your baby is not dependent on the movement, and this is not a habit you created. What's actually happening goes much deeper, and it starts inside the brain. Most explanations stop too early. They say your baby got used to it, that you created a sleep association, that now they need movement to fall asleep. But that doesn't explain the pattern, because if this were learned, it wouldn't start this early. It wouldn't happen this automatically, and it wouldn't be this consistent. Your baby isn't thinking, I prefer it this way. They're not choosing movement. They're responding to something internal, something physical, something their brain is interpreting in real time. And this is where everything shifts. Your baby doesn't fall asleep because of the movement. They fall asleep because of what the movement does to their nervous system. And the moment that effect stops, everything changes. So the question is no longer, why does my baby need movement to sleep? It becomes, what exactly is movement doing inside their brain? That stopping it changes everything. But to understand why movement has such a powerful effect, you need to look at something most people overlook. Your baby's nervous system can't calm itself down yet, and that changes everything, because sleep doesn't start when your baby closes their eyes. Sleep starts when the nervous system shifts out of alert mode. And in the early months of life, that internal break simply isn't fully developed. The part of the brain responsible for calming and regulation, the prefrontal cortex, is still maturing. Meanwhile, the alert system, tied to the limbic system, is active from the very beginning. So what happens is simple. Your baby feels everything, reacts quickly, but can't calm down on their own afterward. Now here's the key point. Movement directly activates the vestibular system, the system responsible for balance and spatial awareness. And this system is closely connected to the autonomic nervous system, more specifically, the parasympathetic system, the one that slows the body down. So when you rock, walk, or keep a steady rhythm, your baby's brain receives a continuous signal of organization, and that creates real, measurable effects. Heart rate slows down, breathing becomes more regular, alertness decreases, the body begins shifting into sleep. This isn't interpretation, it's physiology. Research in early development, including studies discussed by institutions like Harvard University, shows that rhythmic, repetitive stimulation directly helps regulate an infant's nervous system, which means movement doesn't just help your baby sleep. It regulates the system that makes sleep possible. And the moment you stop, that support disappears. When you look at this from a deeper perspective, everything starts to click. Because your baby's brain wasn't shaped for the modern world. It was shaped over thousands of years in a completely different environment, a world where babies didn't have cribs, no quiet rooms, no structured routines. They were in someone's arms, being carried, in constant motion, surrounded by rhythm all the time, walking, breathing, living together. Movement meant presence. Presence meant protection. Protection meant survival. Now think about the opposite. A baby, still, alone, without movement. Throughout human history, that was never neutral. That was risk, and the brain still carries that wiring. So when movement is present, rhythm, continuity, predictability, the nervous system recognizes it as safety, and it responds the only way it knows how, by lowering alertness, slowing the body down, allowing sleep to happen. But when the movement stops, it's not just the physical stimulus that disappears, the signal of safety disappears. And for a brain that still can't regulate itself, that changes everything. That's why the reaction is immediate. That's why it feels automatic. That's why it's so hard to just stop. Because for your baby, this isn't comfort, it's biology. When you put all of this together, a critical detail starts to emerge. Your baby isn't just reacting to movement. They're trying to maintain a state they can't sustain on their own yet. While you're walking, rocking, keeping that rhythm, their body is receiving exactly what it needs to organize: predictability, continuity, stability. The system slows down, alertness decreases, the body starts to settle into balance. But the moment that stops, their brain has to keep that process going on its own, and it can't. So what you're seeing isn't a preference. It's not that your baby likes sleeping in motion more. It's that without that support, they lose the reference that was keeping everything stable. And that creates a cycle that may look confusing from the outside, but internally, it's perfectly logical. They regulate. The movement stops, they lose the state, and have to start all over again. And that's why it feels like it never works. Because you're not dealing with a habit. You're dealing with a system that can't maintain itself yet. When you start seeing it this way, that behavior that once felt exhausting, or even frustrating, takes on a completely different meaning. It's not dependency, it's not being spoiled, and it's definitely not something you caused. It's your baby's brain trying to do something very specific. Stay organized. And if that could be translated, it would sound like this. When you move, my body understands that everything is okay. When that rhythm continues, I can slow down. When you stop, I don't know how to maintain that on my own. I'm not choosing to wake up. I'm losing what was keeping me calm. And that changes everything, because it's not about what your baby wants from you. It's about what they still can't do without you. And that repetitive moment, walking around the house, rocking over and over again, starts to reveal something much deeper. A brain still under construction, trying to find stability the only way it knows how. Now, there's one detail most people never connect, and it's probably something you've already noticed. There are moments when your baby only sleeps in motion, but during the day, they put absolutely everything in their mouth: toys, objects, fabric, even their own hands. And that brings up a quiet question. Is this normal? Or should I be worried? Why do they do this all the time? Is this connected to anything else? Because at first, these behaviors seem completely unrelated, but they're not. They come from the same place, the same brain, the same system, the same need for organization. If you want to truly understand how your baby's brain works and stop seeing these behaviors as random, subscribe to the channel. Because here, you don't get surface-level tips. You learn what's actually happening beneath each behavior, and that changes how you respond to everything. Now, if you've ever wondered why your baby puts everything in their mouth and what that really means, click the video on your screen. That's where you'll finally understand what their brain is trying to do and why it matters more than you think. Because before words, your baby's brain is already telling the whole story.